Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. We are all the way up to the 18th now of November, the 18th day of November 2021. And today we're going to take a look at a few things related to the tropics, then some lower 48 weather news, and finally a look ahead. Once the hurricane season officially comes to a close, I don't turn off the lights in the office and pull the shutters down and close everything up until next June. No, we do a lot in the off season, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of what we will be doing in the months ahead once we get past Thanksgiving, which of course is next week, and then the hurricane season officially coming to an end, even though nature pretty much shut it down after Sam, basically. We had Wanda out there, but you've been following, what's been not happening, and that's continuing today. A lot of stuff not happening, but even when there's nothing happening, there's something happening. I'll explain. Let's start with this tweet, though, from Ben Knoll. Yep, the La Nina looking quite robust at the moment, as he points out here. These instability waves, very pronounced down in the equatorial region. I'll zoom in on the picture for you so you can see that. These are very interesting where the colder and warmer waters meet, and you get them bumping into each other here from the warmer water to the north, the colder upwelled water along the equator, upwelling from way down below, several hundred meters in some cases. Kind of hard to explain exactly why this happens, but it's very similar to when you get warm and cold air masses mixing in our atmosphere, which is a little bit less dense, thank goodness, than that atmosphere, if you want to call it that. The ocean is kind of an atmosphere, if you think about it. It's got its own set of creatures that live down there and its own set of governing physics, etc., with hydrodynamics and fluid mechanics and all sorts of things going on with different thermohaline circulations. These are just all fancy ways of saying, hey, the weather, the ocean, it's all kind of interesting. So you've got the La Nina down there with those transverse, or whatever you want to call them, instability waves, the tropical instability waves. And then you can also see, too, the very warm North Atlantic over here stands out quite vividly in this particular graphic that Ben tweeted. So, yep, the La Nina is still holding on strong. This will again be something that we watch closely about every week or so in more detail as we move on through the next few months. So currently, over at the University of Wisconsin site at the Tropical Cyclones Group, right there, highlight it for you. Why would they be tracking tropical cyclones way up there in cheese country? And there's more to it than cheese up there, right? Hey, look, there's different universities all over the world that have different specialties and different disciplines and different people that study a lot of different things. I don't care where they're located. They could be in Antarctica, which sometimes Wisconsin is similar to, by the way. But nevertheless, this is their satellite department up there, the Meteorological Satellite Studies. And it's nice because you get all these nice products we often look at during the season. But this is the simple one right here, the storm coverage. And there's a couple of areas of interest in and around India. But honestly, neither of them are of any major consequence. No named storms at the moment. And so the globe remains quiet. No tropical cyclones, and certainly nothing of a significant nature out there. As you can clearly see, the map is virtually blank. So whatever has been going on since really Sam and Pamela and Rick in the East Pac, and a little bit of activity, I don't remember the names as readily, that happened in the Western Pacific. We did have some activity in October globally, but it was pretty tamped down. I think that's a word, and it remains that way. Why? That is a very interesting thing. Don't have time to even start to speculate today. Just pointing it out. It's still nice and quiet out there. So let's move along. Satellite picture, there's always something happening if it's not down in the tropics, which you can clearly see. Lack of cloud cover overall, at least convective clouds that are making thunderstorms. Pretty much just straight trade winds through the Caribbean. Same thing here in the Eastern Pacific. A little bit of storminess in and around the Florida Peninsula and the southeast Gulf of Mexico as a front is coming down right here. You can see that cold front very easily. Strong southwest winds ahead of that front and some instability and squeezing out of the moisture in and around the vicinity of Florida, as I mentioned. And so you are getting some rain and some showers and thunderstorms from time to time. Generally speaking, it looks to me the entire peninsula is socked in with clouds. So if you went to the Sunshine State today or the last day or so, for sunshine, well, you have been had. It's not happening. Sorry. Check back later when the front clears and everything clears back up. But for now, it's stormy down there, kind of rainy and dreary. And this front here will usher in colder air. You can see that colder air right there by way of the cloud cover. The cloud cover tells you, oh yeah, there's a lot of cold air creating some instability. Some lake effect snows will get going over those, or emanating from those warmer than average lakes. But again, nothing blockbuster. There was a major news organization that shall go unnamed. I'm sure you saw this maybe on Weather Twitter. They were kind of hyping up a potential big storm, and they were looking at stuff too many days out. They got taken. They did. They weren't thinking ensembles and looking at 5, 6, 7 day deterministic forecasts, and they had a pretty dire headline, and they got it wrong. It's just pure and simple, because there's nothing really that major going on. Yes, localized travel headaches depending on where you are, and again, that's what it all comes down to, and that's what I want you to learn from me over time. I've said it before, you kind of become selfish about the weather. How's it going to affect me? And then you let it branch out from there with your coworkers, your friends, your neighbors, your family. You might tell your wife, your husband, your kids, your nephew, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa. You get it? It starts with you. You become educated, and then you spill that information out to whomever. And at least in this case, I try to give you objective. Here's what's happening. Here's what could happen. And right now, nothing major is happening. But locally, it might be something that affects you. Some of these lake effect storms, well, not really storms, but snow showers. Sure, locally that could be a problem. And there is more moisture trying to come into the Pacific Northwest, where they have had a time of it. But a large-scale storm system, no. We don't have any of that currently, and nothing looking like it's brewing in the modeling going forward. All right, so real quick, I'll look at the vorticity as to what is and is not out there. Deep tropics pretty much clear of any areas of concentrated vorticity or energy. Most of it, again, is in the higher latitudes up here, as you can see, and this is what we will be focusing on in the next several months as we progress through winter, eventually into spring, and then before you know it, it'll be June again, and we will start watching all down through here more and more. And we'll keep an eye on it in the off season. There's always a chance something of an anomaly develops and we get a named storm outside of the hurricane season, sure, but I don't see anything coming anytime soon. So with all the people traveling next week, I was reading some articles about that maybe the levels approach pre-pandemic in terms of all the people traveling, getting back to kind of 2019 numbers. AAA and some of the other travel tracking sites, Expedia, etc., reporting on some of these things. You listen to Marketplace with Kai Risdall. Some of you might be like, what is he talking about, that old man? I listen to much more news and information and market kind of stuff, weather-related things as I get older. And yes, some of it's very pertinent because the weather impacts everything we do. Everything. From your soccer game to your football game you want to go to. You even want to walk the dog or just go out and sit on the bench and feed the squirrels or the pigeons, to traveling by jet, by plane, by train. I mentioned that the other day, that famous movie with Steve Martin and John Candy. It's coming up to that time of year where people are going to be traveling by the millions. So yeah, we got to look and see, are there any big impactful storms? In this particular realm of the GFS here, this particular layer or map extent of it, whatever you want to call it, from Tropical Tidbits, 6-hour average precip in millimeters per hour. So it gives you an idea of how heavy the precip is. And then the thicknesses in the atmosphere. It's just a neat way and an easy way to see the trough, which is right there, the ridging, which is right over here, big ridge of high pressure out west, and then the storminess that kind of separates the two, so to speak, different air masses colliding. It's easy to pick out storms on this particular part of the GFS that Dr. Cowan has provided to us to be able to scroll through quite easily. So you see, if we go back there, that front clears the east coast through tonight and tomorrow, so colder in the east. And look, you can even see here some of these lake effect streamers coming off Erie and Ontario, right? So there will be some lake effect snow, not too ridiculous or out of control just yet, but that's an indication. There are those warm lakes. And downwind of those lakes, the leeward side, yes, that could be problematic. It's been a while, been a few months, right? Many months since you've had that, but it's coming back again. So you get northwest flow through there. The big high settles in over the east. You can see it outlined right there. What is that? 1036 millibars sitting over near Blacksburg, Virginia, or something like that, north of the North Carolina-Virginia border. So kind of chilly, dense high pressure. And then another storm takes shape with a little bit more energy this time. And so travel there on Monday into Tuesday, a little bit gnarly in some places, depending on the airport you're flying out of, what interstate you're using. But that moves out, and it doesn't become a major blockbuster. And so Wednesday's a huge day for travel. That's not bad, all things considered. It could certainly be worse. A little bit of a hint of maybe some windy conditions in New England for Thursday. This is still a week out. Okay? It's still a week out. So I got to be careful. I don't want to get into any traps in long-range modeling, deterministic modeling like this is. That's a pretty potent low there off the coast of New England. A week out, it could either not be there at all, or it could be closer and more impactful for Thanksgiving Day itself. So this coming Monday, let's take a look at this again. In between now and Monday, we'll just do something else, I guess. These updates won't be every day, as you can figure out by now, because the season is winding down. So let's revisit this in a few days. We got Friday, Saturday, Sunday coming up, so Monday we'll take a look at this again. And let's see, is that still there? Is it stronger, closer to the coast, more impactful towards Turkey Day itself, or not? We'll just wait and see. But all in all, the next week, if we just rewind the clock one more time, a few storms, yes, storm systems, but nothing ridiculous where you're like, oh man, this is really going to cause a lot of travel headaches. Some potential, but not a lot. So that's good news there. All right, so what I want to do now is look ahead to the off season real quick. We got the end of the hurricane season coming up here in just less than a couple of weeks, 12 days away. And again, I don't shut everything down and just, that's it, I'll see you in June. No way. We do a lot in the off season. And one of the things I want to do today is tell you about two projects that I'm going to be focusing on in the winter. And we'll get to the spring later. We'll talk about that a few weeks from now. So that's one of our remote cams. Probably all about these. We've got a bunch of them now, 20 of them. And they vary from being able to run for 40 hours all the way to going for 80 hours, depending on how many batteries we put in there or whatever. They're very robust. They've been through Category 5 hurricanes, Michael, obviously, Ida this year. They have shown us extraordinary weather impacts, mainly from hurricanes. That's my forte. That's why I have the logo on the shirt. That's what Hurricane Track is all about. But I'm a man of science, and I love the weather. Extreme weather is interesting, and I want to document it. I want to study it. I want to share it with you. I want to share my passion with you. And it's also my job, too. This is what I do. We're crowdfunded, right? So I work for the people. So what are we going to do working for the people in the off season? Well, one of the things I'm going to do is take these cameras, several of them, as well as another version of it where it's on this orange, let me see if I've got a picture. I should have primed it and got it ready to go for you. So I'll just try to pull one up here for you. I wasn't prepared like I should have been. But we've got a way where we can put this camera kind of like anywhere we want to on a dune. So here we go. There we go. I can just show you that on the camera there. See that right there? That little orange guy? I know that's a crude way to do it. But you can take that cam and just stick it anywhere you like. We can put it on the side of an overpass, clamp it down. We're working on a different way to do that where it kind of hangs there with a heavy piece of steel. The bottom line is we can put eyes on winter storms. Nor'easters, lake effect snows, blizzards, whatever. Sometimes those are all in one and the same. The high plains, big storms that we get over the nation's high plains, and Colorado Rockies, the Front Range, that area, northern Arizona, Flagstaff. Interesting weather. I want to cover that more and more, and I'm able to thanks to our supporters. So the plan is kind of twofold. I'm going to take a bunch of these cameras and ship them to one of our supporters. His name is Matt, out in the Denver area. We'll just call it the Denver area. They will all reside there, and any big high plains storm system that we get, northern Arizona, in Denver itself, that vicinity, up into Wyoming, some kind of a big time, anomalous blizzard windstorm event, cold temperatures, 80-mile-an-hour wind, low pressures in the 980s, maybe upper 970s. You know the ones I'm talking about, even up into the Dakotas. I want to cover those, and we're going to be able to. So this is what one of those cameras looks like, just kind of reminding you. But I also want to measure it, not just see it. And sometimes you can measure from the video. That's a whole other story. But I want to measure what's going on from a wind perspective. So I'm going to ship one of these out to Matt. We have 3 of these thanks to you guys, and you know who you are. You've helped literally fund everything you see there. I didn't pay for that out of my own pocket. This was all provided from our crowdfunding group. Very important to note that. So we're going to put it into use during the off season. That was, by the way, set up for Hurricane Sally last year. That is over Mobile Bay, near Dauphin Island, in case you're wondering. So we're going to take 2 of these and use them in winter weather. One will be sent to Colorado, as I was saying, and we'll use it in the high plains, storms, etc. The other one I'm going to ship up to, and I'll just show you here on our handy-dandy tracking map. This gentleman, you might have heard me talk about him, Evan Fisher. Evan Fisher studies ridge-lined winds and other phenomenon in the southern Appalachians, and he's a meteorologist at UNC Asheville. We have talked. He's part of the Carolina Weather Group podcast. I believe I'm going to be on December 1st to kind of wrap things up for the year. More on that later. But I'm going to go up to the Asheville area soon. We'll figure out when. Now, he's working on some details with the people at Grandfather Mountain. And the idea is to take one of these and one of these that's on the little orange thing I was showing you where you can just kind of set it there. It's very heavy. And measure these upslope winds that come in along the Appalachians here. And you get that upslope flow and you get a lot of wind at those ridge lines. It's a whole other microclimate. Evan knows more about it than I do. And Grandfather Mountain is a great laboratory to do this. So once he clears the permissions part and gets permission from whomever, that's the idea, is to go up here in this area and set up this equipment. Evan and his team will, and we'll actually see this in real time, both from the data perspective and the camera perspective. With the orange one that I showed you, he'll literally be able to attach this to boulders. I mean, it's going to be incredible. Real-time, 80, 90, maybe 100-plus mile-per-hour wind. The pressure up there as well. It'll be station pressure, so we'll have to adjust to the elevation. Temperature, humidity, dew point, all of that will get transmitted in real time. So we're going to branch out and work with other people. And that's going to start here with Evan Fisher and some of his colleagues in the Grandfather Mountain area. So that's something to look forward to. I'm very excited about that. And then again, kind of sliding out to the west, I think this area of the country is extremely interesting in the winter months. The Front Range of the Rockies here and the nation's high plains. Definitely want some equipment out there. Imagine what we could do with one of those storms that comes out of the Pacific, regenerates here. A lot like we see on the East Coast. And you get these cutters that, whatever you call them, I call them a little cutter. They cut across the plains, and they have these monumental deep storms with ridiculous winds across the interstates up there. It's flat, so the wind just screams across. You get these ground blizzards. Trucks get stuck. Some of them get blown off. It's very impactful and a pretty big deal. And I want to be able to, somebody's calling me. I'll have to take that later. I want to be able to study that and show you what it looks like in real time and capture something from it. So that's the other part that I was talking about, working with Matt out in the Denver area. So that's what we're going to do going forward. I'm going to put this over here so I don't see the phone ringing. And how do we do it? Well, it's all done through Patreon, as I was mentioning. And you can still be involved. It's not just during hurricane season. I want to promote this more and more in the off season, continue to grow this. At just $10 a month. If everybody that was a member of YouTube joined in at $10 a month, or everybody on Twitter, I mean, seriously, I would be able to just, whatever we want to do, we'd be dropping our own buoys. We'd be renting that sail drone. We would have hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Now, look, that's a pipe dream. That would be incredible. But what we are having is between 800 and about 1,200 people a year. It fluctuates depending on the storms and the activity. And we're making what we do happen. And it's all because of you guys, this collective, the crowd part of crowdfunding. And my point is, it's not over. We're not done. Okay, we'll see you in June, as I've said already a couple times. No, not even close. So, yeah, you can join up, become a part of this, support it directly, and there's different levels, whatever fits your budget. And for next year, if you join at this level, you get one of our 2022 paper tracking maps. I include that next March. I'll print those up, the 2022 version. It's a nice 20 by 28, or is it 20 by 24? I can't remember. It's a poster size tracking chart. And I'll send you one of those. We do Zoom meetings at this level exclusively for patrons at that level. And starting in December, we're going to be bringing Discord in to more of our members. We've been kind of beta testing it with a handful of people, and we're going to use Discord. And most of you know what Discord is, and Slack. I've just been learning this stuff over the last year, and I like it. We're going to use Discord, and we're going to be doing that more and more. And we're growing this. We're turning it into something even bigger and even better, and you can be a part of it and kind of steer where we're going. Matt, I talked about him. He is a patron. Everybody that I talk about, I think, is probably a patron, in terms of who helps us out with equipment and who I'm going to be visiting to set up equipment, etc. They're all part of it. And that brings me to this. We are crowdfunding our own vehicle. Right here, I talked about this recently. I posted it November the 4th, and we are working on it. It's making good progress. I don't know why it did that. That's okay. Yeah, we were thinking this was fun. One of our supporters, Karen, said, make this fun. You raise enough to get a bike. Not very helpful, obviously. And just the different levels. You got the thermometer that you see when you have fundraising, right? And the higher up the thermometer you go, the more money you've raised. Well, Karen suggested that we use these little icons, and it's going really, really well. And I'm impressed. I'm humbled. And it's not done. It's not done yet. So through November 30th, you can still be a part of this. I'll put a link to the write-up if you want to read all about it. Or you can just do it right now. The Venmo QR is right there. Several people have done this, as I've mentioned it. So I figured, why not just put the QR code? And while I got you, you can aim your phone at it, and it should work. That's how you find me, Hurricane Maps Enterprises. That's my company name. And then I'm at Hurricane Track. That's easy to do. And whatever amount, it doesn't matter. $1, $5, $10, $1,000. Some people have done that. And we are making progress to where we are going to have our own crowd-funded vehicle, a truck more than likely. And, real quick, we did reach out a couple of years ago to Chevy and GM and tried to get a sponsorship, because I used to have that Chevy Tahoe, the famous Chevy Tahoe with all the stuff on it. And nobody seemed interested. It's just like, well, we got some good discounts, and you get him some really good interest rates if his credit is good, and my credit is good. And I was like, no, that's not what, you don't get it. Well, you know who does get it? These people. You guys. You get it. Literally. How do I know? Because you funded that, and you funded a bunch of these. And now we are funding a vehicle. Not a bike. We're actually past the bike. Something, is it going to be a Tundra? Maybe. We'll see. But we're getting there. And it is remarkable. And it's because of you guys. And I really want to drive that point home as we get towards next week and Thanksgiving. Not to get mushy on you, but that's what I will certainly be thankful for, that yet another year, really since 2018, being self-sufficient, not having to rely on sponsorships. And those are great. There's nothing wrong with those. But I like to be working with the people and for the people. I know that sounds like a politician and what they would say, but this is literally your project. I helped to kind of spearhead it. I'm the face of it, but we have done a lot this year, the last 3 years, especially since I've really ramped up the efforts with Patreon, and we're doing incredible things going forward. So I invite you, if you're in the position to do so, to get involved, and that's how you do it. Patreon.com/Hurricane Track. I'll put the link to that, as well as the link to our little write-up here that I did about the mountain bike and what we'll do with it, in the description of today's video. All right? All right, so there you go. That is it for today, from me for today. I'm out of here. I'll put this on YouTube for you guys. And you have a great rest of your week. Again, I'll be back on Monday. We'll take a look at what's happening for the week ahead, the INSO, how that's going, all the usual stuff on the Monday update. And then before you know it, it'll be time to carve up some turkey there on Thursday We just got to get you to and from safely, and we'll talk about that on Monday as well. Thanks as always for tuning in and giving me a piece of your day. I appreciate it more than you know. I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll talk again Monday.